So I really hope everyone is keeping safe in the middle of COVID right now. And looking at the situation right now, the COVID virus is just evolving, from time to time. So likewise, in the cyber world that most of us are operating in, I think we all know that cyber threats is also evolving. So for all organizations out there, it is really important to make sure we keep our data safe and continue to adopt new approaches, next-gen approaches to really manage our data. So just looking at what we have today, right? The situation is this: is good technologies out there. They are always performing at its best, at its peak. Most of the time, at the time where it is being deployed, right? It will do what it is supposed to do very well, and it carries its function, and the effect of what it is supposed to do usually would be able to help the organization check in the checklist, right? However, one should not take for granted. Whatever that is effective at that point in time will not be effective forever because of how cyber threats are really evolving from time to time. So it is important.
Sheena, so sorry to interject. I just wanted to check if you're sharing any deck. We're not able to see your screen yet.
The deck will be shared by Satish in a while. So yeah, I'm just kicking it off.
So sorry about that. Thank you.
No
Please
worries,
go ahead.
No worries, no worries. Yeah. So I'm just going into the example of sharing a situation of using backup tools, right? I think all organizations today use some sort of a backup solution. So 10 years back, when they first deployed, or 20 years ago, it is doing very well. But as time goes by, as the data capacity increases, as new workloads are being created or business demands are being created, there are a lot of increasing needs that the one really need to expand this backup capability. So what is happening typically is the backup admin would perform scripting, customizations to get integration done, just to really stretch the products, right? And so what's happening at the end of the day, maintenance really takes a toll, because we have to really ensure that things are maintained at a tip-top condition, and one has to really patch and ensure that things are functioning all the time. So inevitably, the situation is creating a lot more vulnerability, as well as expanding the attack surface for the bad actors out there. So it is therefore very important to ensure that we have something that is next gen, able to really help future-proof. Today, you implement it, it's good, it's serving its purpose now, but 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, it's going to give you that same effectiveness, if not a lot more, because the business demands, the technology demands is always increasing, right? So with that, I'm going to give you Satish, my colleague, who is also the Director of Systems Engineering, to share with you what is next-gen data management. All right, thank you, everyone, and enjoy. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Sheena. Okay, so good day to everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. So I'm Satish Murthy here, and I run the systems engineering team for Cohesity ASEAN with my colleague Sheena. I'll walk you through what this Cohesity solution for the concept that Sheena just mentioned about what things are going around today, right? So if you look at, I'm going to talk about next generation data management, right? So the next generation data management is very, very unique, right? So where we look at simplicity at scale, massive simplicity, right? What I could say is hundreds of petabytes of data capacity can be managed by one person in one place. So that is very unique. Zero trust security, right? Having ability to detect, protect, and rapidly recover if there is a scenario which happened, right? Powered by AI. So you could think about, hey, I am having a requirement where I need some intelligent decisions to be made. How could I do that? Just let me stop this sharing. It was just the screen, the video screen keeps popping up. Just give me a second. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So powered by AI, where we could improve our decisions better and better. And I'll talk about more, how do we get into smarter in terms of data centers, and third-party extensibility, right? How can I integrate with truckloads of software out there in the market? So you just heard a great presentation from one of the best databases out there, which is Yugabyte, right? How do we get integrated into a single common platform for a common goal of your business? So those are some of the key things that I'll cover in the next generation data management. So AI is everywhere. You walk out on the streets, there are some form of AI talking to you. Right within the house, you have thermostat, which kind of learning how and when should I switch off, when should I heat, when should I turn it off, and so on, right? It's been there for ages today. Then you talk about, you can think about the cars which are autonomous today. We are almost there, we are still not there, right? There aren't many countries who are adopting it, but companies like Tesla are breaking the innovation circles in terms of how could I have a self-driving car. So autonomous driving is just about to happen, right? And then predicting demand when I'm standing in a particular street. So Uber could analyze that, okay, this person needs a taxi, right? I could be in Makati and I need the taxi, and probably they know that what are the possible the drivers who could pick me up. So that AI is the intelligence that moves us forward today. And AI today learns from the context, right? You churn in, you pump in data, it collects these informations, we call it a smart information, and then it learns, right? It adopts and learns and learns and learns. So the more you give it and feed it to the model, the more better things become. Because now I could use some intelligent algorithm where data scientists write these algorithms to correlate all such information and metadata to make sure that I could take intelligent decisions, right? Something cognitive. So we could take a value out of some amount of data that we have and to take the next best thing, right? A very simple analogy. If I have to go into a coffee shop and I see a queue, I automatically move to the next coffee shop. You know, I see a massive queue, I can't get a meeting done in a coffee shop, I'll figure out another one. Now, what these coffee shops do is that they provide a mobile app so that you could see, you could book a coffee and then wait or walk around and then come back. So these are all smarter decisions that would help improve a business value out here. Now, AI helps you to make some smart decisions, right? You could say, I want to do it for next day. You could postpone it. You can advance it. You can program for the entire week. And you can also learn from it, auto reset it or auto set it, get some reports, recommendations, what you could do things better, right? So it helps you with the smart decisions. Given that AI is so powerful in pretty much everything that we do, whether it is hospitals, healthcare, whether we talk about intelligence in terms of business, AI is there, right? So now you think about how about for AI in data management, right? So you need to work smarter, you would agree with me, and not harder. And then automate threat visibility. So we are seeing common threats, which is ransomware, which is what Sheena mentioned earlier. How can I automate that in terms of responding to that? Use a smart assistant, which would help you in your business in terms of data management, and AI-powered ecosystem where I could embrace different technologies and still leverage the AI. Now, if you look at what Cohesity does in the forefront, we are a data management platform. I'll go to the depth of what we do very shortly, but in a very simple nutshell, we are a common data management platform, which encompasses plenty of workflows, if you would call it. We do data protection, which is backup and recovery. We do file services. We do object services. We do cloud, right? We can migrate data to the cloud, back from cloud to earth. And we also offer data security solutions today. Being a single platform that gives you many, many functionalities, we look at proactive IT ops, right? How about unplanned downtime that can happen, right? Things can happen, things can break, right? You would agree with me. And then customers can have impact and loss of productivity. So that can really impact your business. A ransomware crept in and 10,000 VMs went down. Oh, how about my primary storage? Okay, I can't run it anymore. How about my DR? I can't run it anymore. So I have to look at more intelligent repository, which is Cohesity, for example, and how can I quickly recover back? That's one way to look at it. Now, in a simple nutshell, where does Cohesity use in terms of AI here in the IT ops is that we detect degrading components. So if a disk is about to be broken, we know the number of bad blocks in that disk, and we auto RMA a new disk so that you get a disk faster and better rather than you waiting for things to fail and then you get a disk. A simple analogy here, built-in right? Reliability smarts, and also having data integrity checks, right? From the workflow of your data hitting the NVMe or the memory, and then going all the way to the disk, to the cloud. How can I have integrity checks? Now, the second one could be in data prediction. So Cohesity today, being a data platform, looks at capacity, right? You can see the graphs here, where most of the customers in the enterprise do have challenges in terms of either I have under provision technology or over provision, right? I have more capacity than what I need, and inability to handle spikes. We all have one of the biggest challenges in the history in terms of shipment challenges today, right? Because of how things are handled in terms of manufacturing, we do have some challenges these days. How could I simulate 6 months down the line that based on my rate of growth of data, based on my current explosion, if you would call it, in terms of application, I could simulate what if scenarios, right? And I could use real world metrics that makes meaningful sense to the enterprise, and also time runway, so that I could say 6 months from now, I need 1 petabyte of capacity. So I could plan my procurement. I could plan my financial cycles so that I could procure what I need 6 months down the line. How about cold data management? Today, most enterprises, if you would allow me to quote, has about 80 to 90% cold data, period. There is no use of that data. I mean, it is needed when it is needed, but otherwise they are just cold. So what do you do today? You manually figure out, okay, this project is done. Let me migrate somewhere. And then I have limited visibility, and that may be sitting on an all flash storage, which has no obvious choice. It is consuming capacity, it's consuming cost and power and cooling. And you also use multiple tools to figure it out. Cohesity natively on our data platform looks at your existing storage, right? And uses analytics and seamless data tiering capability based on the cold data, which is not being accessed, or based on the capacity. Say that's a file which is 10 terabyte in size, let's move it out, and provide you better cloud migration, and all of these using intelligent AI. How about data classification, right? There was a point in time where we did manually, where we had challenges in terms of classification and privacy. How can I follow GDPR compliance? How can I follow CCPA? How can I follow PCI? These are different compliance requirements, and am I following it? Am I right within that boundary that allows me? So inaccuracies of manual tagging, so that is harder, right? Insufficient coverage of data sets, and complexity always exists. Now, Cohesity takes that. Using AI, we fundamentally churn the data with our metadata. We are like a Google-like file system, which actually allows us to tag everything and have indexing around all our data. We look at all data types. We allow customers to classify and have different privacy standards, so that you could connect yourself with a European standard. You could connect yourself with an American standard or an Asian standard. That depends on your business, and have deep learning and expertise around how can I build my data classification. Again, using AI. One of the serious things that makes absolute sense right now to every single company is that how can I look at my AI for ransomware detection? You know, ransomware detection is one of the toughest thing to do, because if you detect it too late, pretty much everything is gone. How do I look at remediation? How quickly can I recover? Can I understand that this has never been taught in business IT? When you look at IT, we talk about disaster recovery, we look at business continuity, we look at issues of people deleting a file, copying a file, moving a file. These are common, right? Replication of data, that is again common. How about ransomware disruption, which can completely decimate an organization? How quickly can you come back to feet, right? Is IT looking at the newer threat and looking at business to come back very, very quickly? So Cohesity's AI, which is actually powered by Helios, by the way, uses data ingest-based techniques. So based on data entropy, based on rate of change of data, based on correlations, we understand, because we do the backup, for example, right? If you have hundreds of VM, we do a backup, incremental backup of 10 GB every day. This is your normal behavior. If you do a change, one of the VM do, 100 terabytes suddenly because of encryption of ransomware. We can't get dedupe and compression. So that allows our graphing here to see a surge in the data ingest. So that allows us to flag that, dear customer, you probably have ransomware. Now you may have a question, how confident are you to pick up ransomware? I would say there is nothing called 100% certain, but we are pretty much sure 75 to 80% of the time, we would be pretty certain to say that that ingest that happened is likely caused by ransomware. And it is very important to understand and protect your last level of defense, which is your backup. Now, beyond that, we also help you with real-time threat detection, right? Sensitive data leak. Is that something happening in your environment? Because we are a platform, we need to look at all of these. Insider attack, are there somebody having unusual permissions? Are they having unified views to the data? So Cohesity helps us to protect hypersensitive data, insider threats, compromised credentials. So we look at all of these buckets to help an enterprise to look at real-time threat detection. So we comprehensively help any customer to look at an AI-powered ecosystem, look at vulnerability scanning, anti-malware, and threat detection to build a better IT ecosystem out there. Now, one of our favorite topics that Sheena alluded to earlier is specifically about ransomware. You know, ransomware has evolved over time. You would agree with me, right? With the surge in cryptocurrency, we see a surge in ransomware, right? What we have seen is, which may be a graph that you can plot, but what we have seen is that the first wave of ransomware looked at destroying primary data. That's the first wave. And then ransomware improved to destroy backup. And then ransomware improved to steal data. We call it as exfiltration. Now, if you look at the time versus the blast radius, which is the amount of impact that ransomware can have in your enterprise, this blast radius is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So given that's the challenge, we understand your request. We understand that 81% of ransomware attack end up with exfiltration. So they steal the data, ask you for money. We also get to know that 2x is the number of breaches that is happening, and almost 10 to 20% of that is ransomware related, of all the breaches that's happening. We also know the average cost of these data breaches of about 4.24 million. That is significant impact for any enterprise. So there's no more an easy way to cover up ransomware. So this is obvious. So what we also got from customers like you is that 95% of them said, we want to detect these threats earlier. We want to use AI or some technique to help us to detect these better and earlier. 80% of them said ransomware is changing how IT and InfoSec collaborate. And 82% of them are seeing a thought process from IT CIOs, business leaders, CXOs. Hey, this is changing what I studied in my university. This is changing my last 20, 30 years of career. I got to have better response. This is exactly what we hear from customers, that I'm changing my infrastructure to protect my data. I'm changing to protect against ransomware. And 72% said, yes, data management is a part of organization data security strategy. So let's look at the three waves, if you may call it, right? The first one of ransomware is about 2 to 3 years ago, right? A big time ransomware. I mean, earlier there was small ransomware. I won't say it was causing major impact to business. A ransomware 1.0, you can call it as WannaCry wave, right? So this had serious impact of disrupting primary data. You had backups, which we used to do in Cohesity, which we continue to do greatly. And we take a backup interval of your primary data. We see that the primary data is infected. Encryption happens because of ransomware, and encryption ends. Based on this, we use artificial intelligence in Cohesity to detect anomaly patterns. So we were able to detect. So this is a ransomware 1.0 detection, and we investigate and we help customers to do clean recovery and rapid recovery of data. So this was possible, right? So ransomware detected and we were able to recover data. This was great. This was ransomware 1.0. Now, and ransomware 1.0 needed to have better answers from Cohesity. So what we did, we looked at building rapid recovery from ransomware attack. We built our system with data resiliency built in, fault tolerance built in. We added access control, role-based access control, right? And auditing, multi-factor authentication, detection, and anomaly detection. We added all of these to make sure that ransomware 1.0 does not impact customers. And there's plenty of customers who got benefit from Cohesity. This was great. Not many companies innovate around this circle. We are a data platform company. We come with a solution for ransomware, right? This was part one. But what did ransomware do? Ransomware also evolved, right? The bad actors always evolve over time. They launched ransomware 2.0, which, okay, Cohesity guys, you think you had a solution? Let me improve my solution. Let me go ahead and attack not only the data, but also the backup data. And this was a big threat. One of our customers called Skylakes, they are a very big hospital based in Oregon in the US, were seriously impacted by 2.0. But they were very happy with Cohesity because they could recover the entire business back in time because of Cohesity. But that said, so we had to combat ransomware 2.0, which is the second wave. So how did we do that? We not only looked at recovering from ransomware attack, but improving our stack to add immutability. So we added immutability in our architecture, in our backup platform, in the data management platform to add immutability so we could be resilient against ransomware. We could have tamper-resistant archives, and we could have zero trust added. We also added quorum and continuous monitoring so that no single administrator have massive privileges to destroy or damage your data. This was very, very important. And we did it in style, and a lot of customers benefited again. You can call it 1 year ago. But this year, ransomware is persistent and relentless. So ransomware had a third wave, right? I mean, you can relate it to COVID wave or a cryptocurrency wave. They are having a third wave where not only that they destroy the backup, not only that they infect your primary, destroy your backup, now they started exfiltrating data. What is exfiltration? Is stealing your data. We read through the Bangkok Airways. You can just type on it. You can research on it. Basically, not only that they attacked the primary, they destroyed the backup, they also stolen 200 GB of passenger information. And this is a public information, right? And they threatened a company to say, if you do not pay me, I'm releasing all your data in your dark web so that everybody in the world would know. And that can cause stock market crash, that can impact a business seriously because every personal information, passenger PII, is publicly visible. So this is a serious threat. So Cohesity had to up our ante this year. So we went on to the innovation drawing board, came out with better solution where we not only detect ransomware right here before the backup, because we are a backup medium, but we were able to do a detection very, very early where before the exfiltration starts or about to start or just started. So we actually looked at investigating and also have this rapid recovery mechanism. So Cohesity blends data security and data governance together because that has to be together to be on top of ransomware. Who has access to sensitive data? Who is not leaking to data? What is your sensitive data? Where is it, right? How do you prove compliance? So these are the questions where we got to look at merging these two and see how do we look at four facets of IT where you can think about identifying, right, sensitive data, streamlining compliance reporting, remediation, and AI-based security. So they must converge to give value to your business. Now, once you get this, Cohesity, you can think about, we built the threat defense architecture probably the industry's first and only one today. Even from a backup repository, we look at ransomware, resilient from ransomware, immutability from ransomware, protecting air gap solution, natural disasters, and tamper-proof archive. We went on to build access controls that you saw with Wave 2. We added detections, and we also added source side anomaly detection with zero threat. All of these are AI powered. And that's where you need a threat defense architecture, because you can think that backup is just backup. Nobody cares. But backup is your last level of defense. If you have the last $100, where do you keep it? You keep it in an absolutely secure place that would define your life to restart your business. So that is exactly what Cohesity is. We protect your last level of data with our threat defense architecture. So battling the scourge of ransomware with Cohesity, we have innovated through ransomware 1.0. We added immutable backup, CDP, continuous data protection, where we can roll back every minute. We have instant mass recovery, and we had anomaly detection. That's 1.0. We added data lock and isolated vault with 2.0, which is the deletion of backup. So we wanted to protect the backup with data lock. And we also built a vault that can be far, far away with air gap and absolutely protected. We added the third level today with data governance with the ransomware 3.0 threat. How do you be intelligent with AI and protect the data, right? So we added Project Fort Knox and data governance with Cohesity, right? Some of the best practices that I wanted to share with you is that keep protecting your backups. Make sure that you turn on data log, make sure that you have 3-to-1, make sure that you have isolated data vault and protecting your data when really it matters. Secure environment with multi-factor authentication. Have grant least privileges. This is one of the most important one I'll highlight. Grant least privileges to personnel based on their duties, and make sure that you know your crown jewels. Make sure you proactively discover your sensitive data. Make sure you understand your hotspots in your data center and prepare your organization. If there is a massive outage, can you recover back? Can you come back on its knees? Can your business bring it back to your time? So these are some of the key things that Cohesity threat defense architecture help you to secure your next generation data management. We have our umbrella called Helios, which is a single pane of glass, runs on premises, on the cloud, or on the edge, helps you to be a single data platform to run your file services, to run your backup, to run your object services, and provide your resilience against ransomware, right? With data governance, we added one more feather in the cap for CIOs and data security officers. We could now help identify sensitive data, because you have massive amount of mountain of data, right? 1 petabyte, 2 petabyte. How do you know that, right? I only know my core banking or core hospital records are sensitive. Do you know that credit card numbers or social security numbers are just lying around in spreadsheets? How do you know that? How do you protect that? Address compliance risk, detect and remediate your data set. So we look at blast radius of ransomware, and these are the 3 waves that has been hitting the enterprise over this year. Cohesity helps you to minimize and flatten the curve of this blast radius. And that is why it's very, very unique. And our vision today is to protect everything, anywhere with Cohesity, right? Everywhere with Cohesity, wherever your data is, be it on private cloud, be it on public cloud, and Cohesity managed, self-managed, or service provider managed, right? We provide comprehensive backup solution, be it virtualization, be it containers, databases, applications, storages, unstructured data, cloud. We protect all of them, right? And one of the key things why we are unique and making these things happen, this is a traditional way of doing backup, right? There is a traditional server which streams, which is possibly streaming your backup data, and it takes its own slow way of doing things, and it again adds multiple vulnerable points for ransomware. Cohesity's architecture is refreshing. We are a kind of an organic cluster with many number of units. It's a hyper-converged architecture where you fire a backup, it splits the data and writes at a rapid pace. So our rate of change and our backup speeds are almost like 2 to 10 times faster than any traditional method. So that is why Cohesity's backup solution is very, very unique to your enterprise to meet your backup windows. Cohesity also has smart files, which is a new approach to your files and objects where we can drag and drop applications. We can archive applications. We can be your file services. We could support your NFS, SMB, and all your other requirements like CCTVs, voice recording, and all the intelligence natively built in. What I meant by intelligence is built in with antivirus. So you don't have to pay additional backups, additional antivirus software. Compliance is native. You just heard me talking about it. Analytics, who did what when, you actually natively get it. Data management and tiering is also natively built into Cohesity. With that, I thank you very much for giving the time, and I'll just walk through the quick in terms of questions, and I'll see, let's take some Q&A if you have them.